After a rough start to the season, River Plate have managed to get 3 points from their first official home game of the year with a 1-0 win against Instituto de Córdoba that came down to the wire and was only cracked open by a set-piece goal from Gonzalo Montiel. However, most River Plate fans will tell you that this performance is not one to come away with a smile, but instead simply accepting the result and trying to find solutions to the problems that came up. So, this season, River Plate have started every game with a 4-4-2 diamond, with really adventurous fullbacks and a floating number 10 in Manuel Lanzini. The game plan for River is generally one based around possession, while still using the space created by high defensive lines, by playing quick combinations to exploit it, and find free players higher up the pitch. This fast-paced system is also backed up by a heavy press from practically every situation possible in order to control possession and deny the opponents from building attacks. This system is something that very much fits the individual players, or at least those who currently play. For example, Maxi Meza has been constantly starting as a left midfielder in the diamond and shifting out wide in front of Acuña to receive the ball in space and dribble to the center with. And thanks to that movement and Enzo's position as an anchor in front of the center backs instead of a roaming 6, it practically forces Lanzini to move into Meza's space, which really fits him as a roaming 10. Acuña and Montiel's roles as flying fullbacks fit their playstyle, and Colillo's best role is arguably as a support striker, something that really reminds me of Julian Alvarez, just that without the goal-scoring instincts. So using this lineup, River turned up to their own stadium and showed quite a boring but controlling first half performance against Instituto on Wednesday. With 68% possession, the structure was clearly very good for controlling the ball and making sure Instituto couldn't have enough of the ball to create important chances outside of the disallowed goal. However, it was the ball progression that ended up struggling throughout the half. While building from the back, while Montiel usually pushed up beyond the midfield line, it was Meza who was tasked to be the high and wide outlet through the left, with Lanzini dropping into the extra space, almost isolating the two strikers, without support between the lines outside of Galoppo, who would have to arrive in that space thanks to Enzo's common dropping between the lines. This is arguably the opposite of what this formation wants to do, which is to achieve control of the midfield area and to be able to progress the ball throughout the center of the pitch and have support between the lines for the strikers in the number 10. And the few times we actually saw this work, where the ball was moved centrally with Lanzini behind the strikers, it led to massive chances, such as the disallowed goal. You can even see the lack of support in Lanzini's heat map, with him rarely getting the ball in the area 14 and slightly behind that, with him getting most of his touches in the middle left of the pitch. Going into the second half, Gonzalo Tapia came on over Galoppo and River switched to a 4-3-3 formation, with him and Colillo playing narrowly in either side of Borja. This meant that Lanzini was forced further back, where he seemingly struggled to impact the game. However, what it did do correctly is have more space between the lines behind Borja. For example, this case where Meza was already off for Simon. And Tapia came in. It allowed the strikers to be the supporting roles between the lines. It also allowed the midfielders to have more space when carrying the ball in front of the defensive line when they were able to break free from there. And even though this shape does fit some players in the switch, such as Galoppo and the fullbacks, I'm not sure how well Lanzini could do here. One of the most remarkable performances from Lanzini since he returned to River was the Super Clásico, where, if you remember correctly, he played more loose behind two strikers, and this formation does not fit that whatsoever. Here, dropping deeper does not have such a chain reaction in the midfield in case Colillo does not drop in. However, this all changed when Rojas came on in around the 75th minute. At this point, River went to a 4-2-2 style shape, although it was kind of difficult to tell because of the rotations and because there was not as much time in this shape. This meant that River were able to play much more directly to the strikers and 10s, thanks to the amount of players around them, and have these advanced midfielders drop to dictate without isolating the players in front. And And even when dropping deeper, the dual strikers were able to pin the defense when Rojas got the corner that ended up winning River the game. Which you can see here with the, well, in this case it's Drusi, I'm pretty sure, and Tapia being covering 3 midfielders, which allowed Rojas to have the space that ended up giving them the corner, which ended up winning the game for River. Now, as for the conclusions, I really wanted to talk about a bit about the forwards in this game, because outside of Colidio, I thought they all had really poor performances. Tapia struggled to get in the game at times, and even when playing in a 2, and Borja struggled to control the ball even when relied upon, and it really goes to show that the team needs more support around him, because when he's isolated, it's really hard to involve him, and even when the game is quite open and playable for others like Colidio. I'm by no means saying Gallardo should drop him. He's the most reliable goal scorer in the squad, but something has to change. I thought the 4-2-2 was a good solution since Drusi rarely dropped to dictate. So there was tons of support around him, which allowed him to focus on his best attributes instead of trying to act like a different player. Something else I think should be considered is Mesa's place in the team. Despite tons of criticism, I think he's very important for pressing and defending from the front. He had the second most defensive actions, only behind the Cuarta, the center back, and the opening game against Platense. I do think Simon did a good job throughout the game replacing his intensity, but the question with him will most likely be his efficiency going forward. All that said, this is who I would play against San Lorenzo, sticking to the 4-2-2 and keeping the back four who are yet to concede a goal, and dropping Galopo in favor of Rojas, who really impressed both games off the bench. Thank you for watching, and let me know what you thought of the game and what you expect River to do going forward in the season or in the coming months, and if you think that a signing in mid-season would be able to help some of these problems.